Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Quick Slants with Bethel University head football coach Steve Johnson. Quick Slants is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Bethel coach questions about the Royals, football or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about life events that are going on out there. In this week's episode, the coach talks to us about the big victory over Augsburg last week and what he's expecting against Hamlin this coming Saturday. He tells us whether he believes the Chicago Cubs will repeat this season, and the coach gives some advice to young men who might be popping the question. So let's get right to Quick Slants. Okay, so let's welcome back Coach Johnson. Coach, let's first of all begin with your team updates for us.
Team updates were pretty healthy. We got a couple guys. Shepler, alley player, outside backer, is a little banged up and questionable for the game. Other than that, we're, kind of the usual bumps and bruises and getting ready to go. And we've had a good week of practice, and so excitement moving into Hamlin.
Well, let's talk about last week's game against Augsburg first. You got up to a big victory with them. They got off to a little lead on some odd plays, an onside kick, a fumble. Was there a point early on where you were thinking, oh, no, here we go again?
I was more worried about our kids thinking that way. And some of them haven't been a part of it, but there were. I was a little irritated really with how we reacted to bad things happening, where we came out of a week with St. Thomas to where we really played well, and then had some gut wrenching things happen to us that and we really handled them well. And then all of a sudden we're playing a team that, maybe in the back of your mind you ought to do well against, and that we've never been in a game where, we could win 100-0, and there would still be a lot of adversity that you had to handle. So I wasn't here we go again. I was irritated that we didn't handle it with the poise that I'd like to. And even in my own spirit, I felt that same thing, as to where, we've got to be, you have to stay in the fight. It's part of staying in the fight is staying poised and getting to what's next, whether it's good or bad, and, not letting expectations, get in the way of, and kind of, distract you. So, they made some plays, and, one of their touchdowns was illegal. And the refs didn't pick it up, and so you have to live through those things. But those aren't things that you can talk about those later. But it's at the time you have to deal with it, and I feel like we did after we regrouped at halftime, and not just saying because the score changed, but I'm just saying that we really kind of got together as a team, coaches and kids, and said that we've got to react with poise, and people getting under our skin can't deter us from doing our job the best of our ability.
After the team fell behind 20-14, they seemed to really catch fire. A lot of resilience behind what this team goes through.
Well, that's got to be any team. I mean, we have a lot of really, really good players, and we have a lot of guys that are that are kind of working toward, just being as good as we can be. And we have the talent, and we need to put it together, but we need to practice. Even in our own lives, you need to practice, being that guy in the midst of distractions. And so I don't know where we caught fire, but, circumstances, can't douse your fire. And circumstances can't make you, think that you're done. We're always on a road to getting better and executing well and dancing as we go, and not letting discouragement take over, and not letting, in the midst of an intense game, you can't, relax and think you're cool, and I think that's a real life thing.
Gunnar Bloom just had an unbelievable second half for you. You talked about last week how the more carries he gets, the tougher that he gets to stop. Is that what we saw this last Saturday?
I do think that's part of it. I think that we have to get first downs in order to make some plays. We fumbled a snap on the 5-yard line, and that knocked out a drive, and then all of a sudden they got an onside kick, and that knocked out a drive, and then they faked the punt, and that continued the drive. So we really did have less touches in the first half, and then as we began to make first downs and to make more plays, Gunner was able to get more touches, and I do believe that, we've talked about that before, where he's the kind of guy that, I'm not saying that he won't start out great, but he does have the ability to, kind of build on his last one, and he's a very smart player, but he's also very instinctive, and he's really gifted, and so he had a lot of, sometimes a guy will have a lot of yards and it's based on one big run. Well, he had 189 yards and it wasn't, like a 90-yard run. He had a lot of good runs, and those are the things that are big and important, because first downs are as important as yards.
Bryce Marquardt with a big 58-yard touchdown pass for you this last Saturday. This young man is quite an athlete for you.
He really is. He's just so explosive, and he can do so many things. And both in football and baseball, he's a very instinctive player. And so he kind of does some things that are not unorthodox, but they're like incredible. And I don't think he does it. Usually he doesn't do it. Just show off or anything. But sometimes he can just do regular stuff, and it looks so good that it looks like he's showing up. But he really he threw a touchdown pass also on a double pass, and just waited till the last second. But he really gets the game, and then you top that off with he can fly and got great feet and hands, and he just kind of got the whole package.
Well, let's talk about the Hamline University game this week. This is a team you've talked to me a lot about how impressed you are, but the improvements they're making. What are some of the things that you're seeing that they're doing that really impress you?
Well, the first thing that jumps off is that they play hard. They really have an enthusiasm to play football, and it's kind of been a characteristic for a long time at Hamline, and it might have waned for a while before Coach Rogoshevsky came back in, and then Rogo's gone, and Chip has been a part of that resurgence, and then he became the head guy, and they really play hard. They've got a toughness about them that is that's palpable, and they have and they've won some games. I think they're like 5-0 at home this year, and I know that sometimes that depends who you play, but it also it bodes well for the program and the guys, and I think there's really a lot of enthusiasm in the football program at Hamline. Their offense is really their quarterback's really gifted. He's got good guys to get it to, and they're sharp in how they can create matchups and do some different things that kind of look complicated, but they're simple, and their kids can do them. And that's kind of the art in coaching, to where you get guys to buy in, and then they're making plays that are not they're simple. They're not easy, but they're simple, and they make it look that way. So they do a good job on both sides of the ball. And I just think that the way they play is probably the most impressive, with kind of the toughness and the good speed.
You mentioned about their quarterback, Justice Spriggs, and how much of a playmaker he's been for them this season. What are some things you try to do to slow him down?
Well, he's the kind of guy that you want to pressure him, but then he can get rid of the ball really fast. And so we're going to have to understand that they're going to get some yards, but we're going to, we really need to make sure that they earn everything. And we have good speed on defense, and so we're going to have to make sure that we're doing things right, not missing assignments, and then really tackling is so critical. And we get caught up in 9,000 things in football as coaches and fans and even players, but it really usually comes down to blocking and tackling, and so that's the things that we're going to do. It's not like he can stop Justice, but he's got a lot of poise, and he's been, I've seen him just get pounded in a game and come back the next play into a touchdown pass, and so he's unflappable, and he's good, and he's accurate, and so it's going to be a day where we need to make sure that we're doing things the right way, offense, defense, and special teams, and and put the Royals up against Pipers.
I think one thing a lot of people forget is that this is the last time you're going to be coaching some of your seniors here, or all of your seniors. So what is the feeling like for that, knowing that this is going to be the last time that you're coaching these young men?
I know that they prepare themselves for this and don't really know it, but I do the same. My wife knows that this is it's probably the hardest day of every year for me, and on one hand it's a great day, and on one hand it's a hard day, and there's a little bit of a deaf piece, where you feel like, oh man, and your heart's kind of broken, and at the same time there's great joy because these guys they feel like our coaches, is that like if it wasn't so great it wouldn't hurt to be done. And their experience, what they've given to us, has been amazing, and they all feel like what they've gotten is even more. And I guess I feel like that as their coach too. And so, it's a big deal, and it's a hard day, but it's okay. You know what I mean? It's kind of a hard joy, and a lot of tears after that. No matter win or lose, there's gonna be a lot of tears. Most of the time, I'm kind of known for crying a lot, but almost all of my tears are joy tears where my heart's full.
Pretty exciting time, though. Well, let's head to our fan questions this week. First of all, it's Jim from St. Paul. He says, "Are there players that have already signed to come to Bethel next year?"
There are already players committed. You can't sign at any level. You can't sign yet, but at Bethel, we have, there's a good handful of good players that are, probably, that we think we're going to get, and they've said that, boy, if I want to be here if I can, because there's a lot of things to do and work through in the recruiting process and even in the admissions process as far as finances and all those different things. So there's a lot of players that we have targeted, and there's even more to come from that. But nobody can actually sign. But I would say there's 10, 12 guys that have committed to come.
McGill from Chicago would like to know what you thought about that bunt by Baez in the ninth in the Game 7 of the World Series.
I was irritated at first, but then I thought that the way he's swinging, we probably had as good a chance to get that bunt down. I was a little irritated that he didn't get it down because he's so good with that. But, if he bunted that and gets it down, we get the run in, we're good. And then I was ticked off his strikeout. But if he sat there and tried to hit a fly ball, he may have struck out anyway. So, maybe the odds of getting that button down were as good as hitting a fly ball. So after I thought about it for a minute, which, Coach Madden doesn't have the luxury to sit in his living room and figure that out later. But I was ticked off at first, but then I thought maybe it made some sense.
Ben from St. Louis Park would like to know from you if you think the Cubs will repeat next season.
Hey, that's a tough one. One of my big worries in the midst of the playoffs this year is that it's really hard to get to where they got, let alone win the whole thing. So I think that they will be repeatedly good. I don't know. That doesn't always mean you're going to repeat, but they're going to be good for a long time because I think that people, as long as I think that if they can continue with the character people, that they have a bunch of guys who love each other and they can, stay as unselfish as possible. You can't stay unselfish because, that's all in us, and you need to control that, not, because you can't totally get rid of it. And there's a little bit of that selfishness that if you're not trying hard to be amazing, then you're not giving your gifts to us. So I think the repeat thing happens, things have to come together a little bit, but they're going to have as good a shot as anybody to repeat because they really have a lot of talent and chemistry and so on and so forth.
There really isn't any free agents to that team. Is that true?
I think they'll lose Chapman and they'll lose Fowler, and there's not too many. I think I got a feeling they're trying to make sure that they can lock up everybody for a long time and do things, be right by the guys, but also it's still a business. They need to make sense of those things. So there's they've got to have guys that they can plug some holes. They're going to need a relief pitcher somewhere. Kind of a lockdown guy.
Trent from Minneapolis asks of you. He says, I know that they say that defense wins championships, but the struggles of the Vikings and Broncos seem to prove that you only win championships on defense in the playoffs, wouldn't you say?
No, I would say that the defense won the game. The defense won the games in those first couple games, and the Vikings fell just short. I think that still the offense has to do a little, but defense has to. Defense. I believe that defense wins. And defense, sometimes people don't see is that defense, you can bend and not break, but then you never get in the offense the ball. And so when the offense doesn't ever have the ball, then they can't get some of the rhythm that they need to have going. And I just think that we're too quick to blame it on one or two things, pretty often. And, I think the Vikings missed a few tackles and, and they haven't been able to scare anybody with the run and so that they can tee off and come after Bradford. So I still think that defense wins championships, but you can never say that, one thing wins anyway. So, I think the Broncos are terrific because of their defense, and they can continue to grow, and they just need some time for their quarterback to grow. But both teams need to run the ball better, in my opinion.
Tina from Mason City asks of you. She says, I see a lot of people are thinking the Rams are wrong for not playing their number one draft pick at quarterback. Do you think it is better to let a guy like that sit for a year or to have him go through trial by fire?
Well, I think that's a good question because I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think I'd probably trust the coaches that are there, but even those guys, you don't know what's the best thing, and they may not feel. There's just too many things we don't know. They may feel like he's not ready, and they might feel like I can't. There's just there's a lot more to it than just his ability to slow run or whatever else is a leadership piece that maybe they don't feel like he can have yet. And so you've got to, everybody's got to kind of be on the same page as how we're going to bring a guy along.
Well, I know you're kind of a fan of Jeff Fisher too, so I'm sure if he's making a decision, it's probably a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, I think I'm a fan of Bethel too. I'm not so sure about all the decisions either. It's just, it's kind of like they talk about doctors that they have a practice, and it's a little bit like a coach. You're making educated assumptions, and you're kind of having to learn as you go. And Coach Fisher is really a solid guy and a strong. He's a strong coach and strong personality, and I think that I guess what you're saying is I would trust him, and I agree, I would trust him.
Joel from St. Paul would like to know, how are you feeling about America now?
Probably about the same I was last week. I did have questions why those two were the only people in this whole country that we could put up to vote for, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I do think that there are some people that are mad at people that voted for President Trump, and I think that's not good because it seems like there are a lot of people that didn't want Hillary or didn't want Democrats and all that stuff, and so I think we need to move on. We need to get what's next, and if every person in America tried to be a better man or woman in their own right, then we do better.
Couldn't agree with you more on that. Taylor would like to know, do players ask your advice when they are thinking about getting married, and what are some things you would tell a young man who was thinking about topping the question?
I don't know if they asked me about getting married, but they might ask me something in the midst of their relationship, and I would treat that differently. I do know this, that if sometimes I hear, couples, guys or gals say, well, we're going to wait until we're ready, and then I would say there's no such thing. And, we're going to wait until we're ready to have kids. Well, there's no such thing as getting ready. And, obviously you want to have some wisdom in those things and do those right. But I guess I would tell them that, if you're going to marry someone that's, make sure that you're someone that you care enough about to stay in the fight, and that make sure that they care about you for the right reasons, and that, you want you to be crazy about each other. But even past that, need to, know the groundwork of that deal. That, if it's not, then, marriage is tough enough without being based in a Christ-centered relationship.
Amen to that. So for our last part for this week, what are we praising the Lord about and saying hallelujah anyhow to?
Praise the Lord that we live in this country, and hallelujah anyway is that we live in this country. So, and I think that we got work to do, and we can kind of sit around and wonder about this and wonder about that. I just think that there's going to be like hard work and responsibility, and holding one another accountable and yourself accountable, and running to the fight, staying in the fight, and finishing. You know what I mean? And I know it sounds a little goofy, but if we all kind of quit worrying about everything else. I heard a sermon from Greg Boyd a little bit ago, is that only God can judge and love, and so we just need to do more loving and less judging. So I'm thinking.
That sounds great. Well, thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
All right, man. Love you.
We want to thank Coach Johnson for joining us on Quick Slants this week. If you have your own questions for the Bethel coach, please send them to us at stevejohnson@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's Steve Johnson at minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Wednesday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time on Quick Slants.